Hi, we're Pastor Dave and Dee Dee Thompson from Gateway Ministries in Golden, Colorado. We are actually Casper and Cheryl's pastors.
Isn't that wonderful? Casper and Cheryl with IAM Love Builders. They not only attend our church, but you know what else they do? They conduct marriage workshops, they conduct retreats, and they provide marriage counseling for our whole church family. Very powerful and life-changing.
Schedule it.
Yeah.
You might have to come together and say, honey, Thursdays. We're going to set it no matter. We don't schedule nothing on Thursdays. Thursdays is our day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome to the space where we tell our truth. Testimony, healing, breaking shame loose. Learning our bodies and walking by faith. Intimacy, God's way, right here is the place. Except for saints. Mondays at 6. We believe in the power of the story. Not just pain, but redemption and glory. Faith in the rhythm, hearts in the mix. Trust in educators. Mondays at 6. We're overcoming by the word of these testimonies. People getting free when we speak what's holy. Healing in our hearts, shame starts to split. Every story told, another chain gets stripped. Learning our bodies, learning His way. Intimacy and faith, walking day by day. This is where we heal, where the truth sticks. Except for saints. Mondays at 6.
All right. Hello, everyone. I am so excited for our guests tonight. We have Cheryl and Casper, and they are the founders of IAM Love Builders. And I'm so excited about the episode that we have tonight. We are talking about divorce proofing your marriage. Listen, marriage is beautiful. Marriage is so beautiful, but that beauty, it comes with intention. In order to keep your marriage beautiful, you have to be intentional about what you are doing within your marriage. And sometimes that means you have to lay foundations in place. You have to lay systems in place, which is why I'm so excited to have Cheryl and Casper with us today. Hello, Cheryl and Casper.
Hey,
hello. How are you?
All right.
I am
well.
good.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming and accepting the invitation. Welcome to the Sex Ed for Saints podcast. We're here, we're just teaching lessons on life, lessons on education, educating, the body on sexuality, on marriage, on love, all the things, right? And so you guys are a treat tonight. And before we get into it, I usually have a segment where I share things with the audience. And tonight, I actually have some questions just one question I'm gonna pick. I have questions that my audience, they send me. And so I'm going to read one of the questions and then we can answer the question live on air. So It's called Ask Tammy, right? Ask Tammy or Ask Tammy and Guess per se. So let me go ahead and pick a question and we're going to go ahead and answer it on the air. All right, let's see what we got. All right, this question says, I love my spouse, but I feel like we are speaking two different languages in the bedroom. I don't know how to express what I need without hurting their feelings. Where do I start? That is a good one.
Is that a question you want us to start out to answer, or you?
Yeah, you can go ahead and start.
So, from my vantage point, and Cheryl will have her thoughts as well, I'm sure. When it comes to physical intimacy, it really starts even before you get to the bedroom. And if you are spiritually connected, if you're emotionally connected and intimacy going on, the bedroom part of it is almost like icing on the cake. So if you start right, you start the relationship right, especially a Christ-centered, God-centered relationship, then things in the bedroom on the physical intimacy side are easier. It doesn't mean you're not going to have challenges and things like that, because we're all growing older and things happen and so forth. But if you have that connection before the bedroom, then that's when the bedroom challenges get easier.
And then I would also add to that, Casper's absolutely right. Intimacy starts before physical intercourse. You start way before then. It starts with flirting and being playful. But even before that, you have to be able to communicate.
Yeah.
So if you don't share your thoughts, your expectations, then your spouse will never know.
Right.
We would like for our spouses to be mind readers. It would be awesome, but they're not. And neither are we. So you gonna have to get past whatever that fear or intrepidation that you have. You have to talk with your spouse. You have to share. And I know you said you didn't want to hurt feelings.
Yeah.
But feelings can also be hurt when one has an expectation and it's never shared.
Yeah.
And when that happens, then the relationship that's when separation comes in. That's when the enemy gets in and starts putting a wedge between the two. And you don't want him to do that. So you got to be, as they say, be a big girl and sit down and say, honey, look, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, but some things I'd like to discuss in our intimacy.
Right.
Share with me, what are your thoughts on intimacy or our intimacy?
Yeah.
Casper and I do what we call a checkup. And every now and then we'll get together and we'll say, how we doing?
Yeah.
How am I doing? Is there a need that you have that I am not meeting?
And vice versa, yeah.
Yes, and it goes both ways. But I have to put my big girl panties on, because if he comes to me and says, and he's a gentle guy, but even if he comes to me and says, well, I kind of would like this, or this is not happening, or you've been doing this lately and it's not really cool, I have to put my big girl panties on and say, okay, I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm like, okay, Lord, help me to make those changes, because my spouse he's special to me.
Yeah.
And so a lot of things we find ourselves into that are difficult is because we didn't do the preliminary work beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We push it under the rug, we ignore it, and it doesn't go away. It grows.
Yeah.
And eventually your spouse will know that there's a difference.
Right.
And they'll know that they'll start, and then the imagination starts working and thinking things are happening that may not even really be it.
Yeah.
But something's going on. So communication is key.
Is key, yeah.
I love that. I love that. Listen, we are already starting with wisdom and we haven't even gotten into the episode yet. Okay. I love it. I really don't even have anything to add to that. It always amazes me how many women are not comfortable with expressing what's going on. Right. And it hurts. It's more hurtful than it is helpful when you are not communicating with your spouse. And I think that we really have to get to a place where we have such a great relationship with our spouse that these conversations are easy to have, right? This is the most intimate space that we are sharing with someone, and to not be able to communicate that, it's actually disappointing, right? And so I feel like, as we're in a marriage, you should be able to have the hard conversations about intimacy and not feeling like you're hurting their feelings, and the other person needs to not feel like it's a rejection, but that the information is going to be beneficial to, moving forward, because we are both trying to grow as one. So I absolutely love the wisdom that you guys have. With that, I want you to tell everybody a little bit about who you are, what you do, and all of the good stuff.
Well, before we get to that, I wanted to add one other thing to that, is that you talked about the hard questions. You don't wait till after you get married either.
No.
Yeah.
to ask the hard questions. You don't wait till after you get married to start having conversations about intimacy.
Yeah.
That needs to be done the moment that you're engaged or the decision has been made that you guys are going to do life together.
Yeah.
That's when you start having those conversations. That's
Yeah.
when you need to know now, before the wedding,
Yeah.
before the honeymoon.
Before I do.
and I'm strictly talking about from the communication, talking to one
Right.
another.
Right.
And you should have a life partner, a husband or a wife that you can communicate with, you can talk to. And if you're having someone right now and you're in a relationship and you guys are not eye to eye on communication,
Mm-hmm.
that could be an issue. So you need to rectify that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're Casper and Cheryl Stockham. We are Christian broadcast producer, TV producers, and marriage coaches. We've been doing this for about 18 years now. So we've been married for 23 years now. And, early on, we realized that we actually had a really good marriage and we wanted other couples to have a good marriage as well. So we were going to this church and we were part of a planning committee for the marriage retreat. And they wanted members of the planning committee to do something for the retreat, like a presentation. So Cheryl and I decided to do a presentation together. It was the first time we actually had done something together. So we both had done presentations in the past for other things, but never together. So we did a presentation at the marriage retreat, and there were like 40 couples there or so.
Yeah.
It's a lot of folks there. So we did a presentation, and afterwards the pastor came up to us and said, I don't know if you guys realize this or not, but you really flow together. When you're doing a presentation, it really looks like you guys have been doing it for forever.
Have a lot of chemistry, synergy.
Yeah. So he said, I know another couple who's also doing some marriage workshop stuff. So he connected us up with them. And that started us on a journey for like 8 years of doing marriage workshop training all over Colorado for an organization called Center for Relationship Education. So we did that for a while. We had a radio show for like 2 years and did a podcast. Then I took a little break into politics for a minute, like 10 years, but I'm all healed from that. I'm all delivered from that. And then just recently, about 3 or 4 years ago, we wrote a book called Divorce Proofing Your Marriage. You were talking about that. So we wrote a book called Divorce Proofing Your Marriage, which is out on Amazon. And we've been busy with a lot of other projects since then. So, yeah.
I love it. You guys have been busy. It's exactly what you stated. Yeah. And I'm excited to have this conversation because there's so many people who, plan to have great marriages, but they're not putting the parameters in place to ensure that they are divorce proofing their marriage. But I want to, ask a little bit about you. Like, how did you guys meet?
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about you first.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was interesting. So I'll start with my part and then Cheryl can add in her part and we can maybe come together somewhere in there. So I have, unfortunately, I've had a lot of failed relationships and just marriage situations. I was failing my way to the top of relationship experiences. And I was ending a relationship. I was at the end of this one relationship and I was in my, in a parking lot right outside my apartment. I can remember this vividly. And I was like, God, I have no idea what I'm doing. I really want to be married. I want to be in a great relationship, but I can't pick them. My picker is broken. I keep, hooking up with the wrong people for the wrong reasons and all this stuff. I said, if she's out there, you really need to bring her to my attention because I'm done. I'll be happy to just be by myself for the rest of my life because it's just not working. And that's when the vision of Cheryl came to mind. Now I knew of Cheryl and she knew of me, but we were not anywhere even close to looking at each other or thinking about each other. But I was like, okay, so we have a mutual friend. Cheryl's friend was running their
Real estate
real estate office, and I was into computer tech work. So I called our friend and asked her, I said, hey, is Cheryl dating anyone? And she said, I'm not sure. Let me check. Right. So then a couple of days later, she comes back and says, hey, the answer to your question is no. And I thought she meant she talked to Cheryl, and Cheryl was like, cut that off right now. She said, so what are you going to do about it? And I was like, well, I'm going to ask her out. Mm-hmm. So I called and asked her out. And when I called, she picked up the phone. And what did you say?
Well, I was immediately going to transfer him to my friend, because that's normally he calls to talk with her, because I ran the office, and so I would transfer the call to him. Mm-hmm. He said, no, I want to talk to you. And I was like, talk to me? And I thought, okay. I thought, something's going on with the equipment. What do you want to talk to me about? And so he began to talk, and he was kind of babbling a little bit because he was nervous. Mm-hmm. And he asked me to go out with him. And I looked at the phone. I was like, what? Well, previously he'd come to the office with this woman. So I thought he was either married or engaged. Mm-hmm. So when he asked me out, I thought this. Mm-hmm. He has lost his mind. What is wrong with him? And I said, well, aren't you married or engaged or something? He said, oh, no. So he went to explain it, and he kept talking. And while he was talking, I was like, now, Holy Spirit, what we doing here? And so he asked me to go out to a movie with him, and the Lord said, go. I was like, okay. So I said yes. And I went out with him. And the one thing that I got to tell you I really enjoyed about Casper is that he was upfront. He told his story. He didn't hide anything. He wasn't stuttering or like uncomfortable, where sometimes some people, they deflect. They don't want to tell you the whole story. They tell you half or just a little bit, or they make up things because they don't really want to tell the truth. Mm-hmm. And I can tell he was being very sincere. But in him explaining his different relationships and marriages and how they ended up, I looked at him and I said, you do realize that in all of that, you are the common denominator. I said, what's wrong with you? But he was so sincere, and he was that way throughout our relationship. And I asked the Lord, I said, Lord, just show me his heart. And his heart was very sincere. He was very upfront. And I can tell that he was a man who wanted a wife, and not for the wrong reasons, but he genuinely wanted the partnership that comes with marriage. Yeah. And so we went out on our, it was the first, second, the third date, I believe it was. We got together and we cooked dinner. He cooked, and he came to brought the food to my house. I cooked, and so we were sitting at the table, and we were talking. And then again, he got nervous and started babbling and stuttering, and I looked at him and I said, "What are you saying?" And he said, "I would love to be your husband."
Wow.
Consider being my wife.
Wow.
Now we need to back up a little bit, because
what date were we on?
Well, our first date was August the 16th.
Mm-hmm.
We got married September 28th.
Yeah.
5 weeks later.
Yeah.
Wow.
But on the first day, we went to the movies, and after the movies, we talked for like 3 hours. And I was like, wow, God, that was pretty fast. I mean, I was just a couple weeks ago, I was praying and you delivered my wife to me. That's awesome. That's what I was thinking. But that was not what
Yeah.
she was thinking. She was thinking, man, I'm glad that's over. Now I can get back to my life.
Well, I got to tell you, things were a little tainted for me because all of my girlfriends at the time, those who were married and single, their relationships were just messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The marriages was messed up, the relationships were messed up,
Mhm.
and we're all in the church, and it was just,
Yeah.
and I was like, Lord, I am single, I am happy, I have peace of mind. I'm not giving up my peace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have to have a date. I don't have to have a husband. I'm good.
Yeah.
You know, as a
Yeah.
matter of fact, I used to say, all I need you to send me, Lord, is money. I don't want a man. Give me some money. I want to be wealthy. That's it. I'm good.
Yeah. 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 That's so
But, of course, God
interesting.
had a different plan.
Yeah. He did. He had a different plan for you. He knew exactly what he wanted. He knew exactly what he wanted. I actually love this story. When I met my husband, I think it was maybe about 2 weeks in, he was like, "You my wife," and we were married 6 months, and I thought that was quick, but y'all have been 5 weeks. Like y'all took it right there.
And I didn't even like him at first. You know,
Yeah.
I really did not like him
Mhm.
because when he would come to the office, he was short with his responses. He was cocky. He was arrogant. And I really didn't like his attitude.
Wow.
And I told my friend, I said, you know, if he come here with that high-minded attitude one more time, I'm just going to deck him one.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm over it coming in here talking to us that way.
Yeah.
But he
Yeah.
says that he was under duress.
I was under duress. Yeah. I didn't like
You weren't-
that
you weren't
Casper either
pressure.
at the time. So,
That's interesting because you knew exactly what you wanted.
mhm.
And the way that God aligned it was actually beautiful. It worked for you. So
Yeah.
you didn't really have a long courtship going on. So how was it going from that straight into the marriage? Like, what was that process like getting to, because you were actually learning each other when you're married because you didn't have a long courtship, right?
No, we didn't have a long courtship, but we talked every day.
Mm-hmm.
About all kinds of stuff, and it was mainly an interrogation. That she was asking me all these questions, trying to get me to trip up somewhere so she can move on. But I kept answering her questions, and I just told her what she wanted, not what she wanted to hear. I just told her the truth. I said, "This is what it is,"
Yeah.
and she saw the sincerity in my answers. And then the final straw was when she said, okay, so
this is my trump card.
yes, yeah. She said, look, there's not going to be any physical contact or relationship unless I'm married.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, I'm not even sure what that means. But I'm glad she said that. And I'm glad she did what she did because it really helped me and helped us become friends.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we really enjoyed just hanging out and being together and doing stuff. And we still do to this day, 23 years later, we're still the same as we were then. We just love just hanging out.
Yeah.
So it just solidified in that 45 days. Now she wanted it to be a year.
Mm-hmm.
She said, okay, we can get married. We can get engaged and we can get married next year. I'm like, next year? What the heck?
You ain't gotta wait a whole year.
I said, what? So then I whittled her down to 45 days.
It's actually worked because you said you guys have been married for 23 years. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And a lot
let
of
me
people,
also throw out a caveat with that is that we were older.
Yeah.
I mean, we were in our 40s.
The early 40s, yeah.
And so, we've done a lot of life by then. We've made some mistakes. We've been in some awful situations. And so we were a little bit wiser. And we had a little bit more of a thought process about what we wanted for our our future. And not that I was looking for a mate, but I knew what I didn't want.
Right.
I could see through all of my friends who were around me, and I observed their relationships and their marriages, and I was like, Lord, I don't want to deal with that.
Right.
You know, I'll stay single for the rest of my life, but you know, my sisters are miserable. I mean, there's so much drama and pain. I said, I don't want that.
Right.
Yeah. And I actually love that, because, you know, you guys, you kind of beat the odds with that, right? Because there are people who have been together long term and they get married and then they're all of a sudden divorced. And so what kind of problems did you guys run into, and what kind of solutions did you use to like safeguard some of those problems that you encountered in the beginning?
Yeah. So we've seen it all over the past 18 years. And we put a list together, 7 keys to divorce proofing your marriage. But a lot of the folks that we run into are people who have grown apart, right? Because they have careers and the kids and just different things going on, and they have lost sight of the goal. You know, they're not focused on each other anymore. They're focused on all this other stuff. And then the kids grow up and the kids move out. And next thing you know, they look at their spouse and like, I don't even know who you are. I don't even know if I like you any, you know, and it's all these things because they grew apart as opposed to staying together and focus, in our opinion, focus on that triangle at the top, God at the top, and focused on that. They're focused on all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And they just grow apart.
And well, for us, what we did, first of all, we were very honest with each other. We were very upfront with each other. We were intentional. We were open to communication. Like I said, we established early, like a little review. You know, how are we doing? How am I doing? We were very open and upfront when it comes to talking to one another. Finding out, and then, you know, going through the training that we learned during the workshops.
Right.
Also, we use those same tools for us. So we learned how to share each other's expectations. What do you expect? I wasn't afraid to ask him for his thoughts or his opinions. And if they were different than mine, at this point, I felt like I was mature enough, I could handle that. And we could come to some collaboration on whatever it was. So we talked to each other. We shared each other's expectations, what are yours, what are mine. We didn't keep them secret. We didn't try to read each other's minds. We didn't get easily offended. We wasn't easily feeling rejected. We were open, upfront, and I understood that we were the team. Us, we are a team. We're Team Stockham. And so we stick together. We work through it together. We don't let things pull us apart, because we got married so our first date was in August. We got married September, and then that January, and I was already in a course change, and then the career change, and 9/11 had happened. So the bottom was falling out of real estate. So that was falling apart. And at the same time, we got married, it's about January, February, Casper got laid off. So there was a period of time right up front where we both were unemployed.
Wow.
And so we had foreclosures and
bankruptcies,
the whole
and
nine, repos,
Wow.
and we went through all of that.
We went through it, but we never blamed each other for what was going on. You know, we always supported each other. And it was important for Cheryl to know that I wasn't just, okay, like I lost my corporate job, and it was a nice corporate job. But I wasn't sitting around on a couch, you know, just playing video games saying, oh, well, She saw me working, or at least trying to find employment, trying to start businesses, do whatever we could do to maintain. So she saw me working every day.
Mhm.
So that was, that helped give her comfort.
And I was able to get contract work. So then ended up I was working. It wasn't enough to cover all our bills, but I was working. And what I appreciated is that when I came home from work, the house was clean and dinner was ready.
Yeah.
He wasn't
That's
just
good.
sitting around. I could tell he'd been busy. He would bounce ideas off where I was thinking about this, or I saw this job. What do you think? Blah, 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 blah. And we had conversation around that. And so that gave me a sense of security.
Yeah. I love that because, a lot of individuals, a lot of married people, they don't have that sense of balance where when things go wrong. And so, there are a lot of relationships that still have traditional roles where, I'm the man, right? And I'm not going to help out in the house and all of these various things. I'm not going to cook and, you're supposed to submit to me, and you know what I mean? So how can, or what would be the advice, I should say, to someone who still has that same traditional mindset in thinking that, no, you have to submit to me type of way where, to me, I feel like it's manipulation of scripture, right?
Yeah.
So what would be the advice that you would tell someone who has that mindset? Because that plays a role, in divorce proofing your marriage.
Absolutely. So I wrote a book called Mastering Adam. It's the biblical Adam. And it's a book that all men need to read, because when God created Adam and put him in the garden, he told Adam to go to work. And it was his responsibility. Everything was Adam's responsibility, not just, working, but attending to the garden and naming the animals and all those kind of things. So he provided Eve as a helpmate, but everything is Adam's responsibility. So fast forward to today's society, the home is Adam's responsibility. Everything in it, the cooking, the cleaning, the maintaining, the repairs, everything. Now, it's awesome if you have a helpmate to help in those areas, but at the end of the day, it's Adam's responsibility for everything. So it's not a question of submission. It's just a question of coming alongside and helping Adam. But it really is also important for Adam to have a plan, because, if Adam doesn't have a plan, Eve is very capable of coming up with her own plan. So Adam needs to have a plan, and the plan needs to be something that they both can agree on and move forward with. So that's why I wrote the book Mastering Adam, and then Cheryl wrote the book Mastering Eve to help Eve understand how this all works as well.
I love that. I love that because when you have help, it takes so much pressure off of feeling like you're in it by yourself. And one of the key things that you said was when he helped and he did these things, it made you feel safe. It gave you security and whatnot. And I think that people don't really understand how simple something as helping do chores and all of these various things around the house could really help the marriage.
Yeah.
Right? I'm blessed because I have a husband who does a lot. He does the majority of everything, especially when it comes to the kids. He takes a lot of the load away from me. And with that, I'm able to focus. I'm more calm, when we do get together. And it just allows me to be more free and more safe when we're together. And that's the reaction to, or the reaction to that. So I'm blessed in that way. So
absolutely,
I definitely understand that.
I totally agree with you. Now, Casper and I, we don't have traditional roles, but each one of us has something that one does better than the other. And so we share roles. We don't, it's not you always do this role and these are always your roles and this is always your responsibility. It's not like that. I do what I do because this is what I'm good at. He does what he does because it's what he's good at. But if something happens or I need help, I can ask him, hey, honey, I've kind of been cooking all day today, so my legs hurt. Would you clean the kitchen? Absolutely. I do most of the cooking. But if I say, honey, I took some chicken out, I'm going to be running late from work. Could you? Absolutely. He gets right in there and he fixes the meal. So we get in where you fit in, but be prepared to be flexible when needed.
Yeah.
So we share a lot of our roles, and we have a daughter with special needs. Mm-hmm. And so that's a big responsibility, and we share that as well. Mm-hmm. And when he has to go on a business trip and I'm here, then I have to do it all. But that's when you really appreciate your spouse.
Yeah, for sure.
And so it's not something that we necessarily, I don't think we ever sat down and said, this is what I do and this is what you do.
No.
It just flowed.
Yeah.
We just flowed.
Yeah. And that's good. That's good because you balance well because you communicate well. Yeah. And I think a lot of what you have spoken about has been the foundation has been communication, you guys 100%. Speaking with one another. So I want to talk a little bit about that real quick because people really don't understand tools that could really be beneficial to help them, communicate with each other, to listen better, to speak more effectively, especially, when there's agreements going on. So what kind of tools would you recommend for somebody to be able to communicate as well as you do?
Yeah. So we have several tools in our book, Divorce Proofing Your Marriage, and also on our website and our new MVP Love Hub. It's a God-centered community that we're asking people to join. Mm-hmm. We're developing it right now to ask people to join. It's a free community, but we're putting all of our tools and things in there. So we have this one tool called a communication card. And typically when folks are in a heated communication, nobody's listening to the other person. They're just trying to wait for the other person's mouth to close so they can jump in and say what they have to say. And the communication tool slows that conversation down. It becomes very awkward because we're not used to having a slow conversation. Mm-hmm. We're used to nipping at each other and jumping in and all this other stuff. So the tool forces you to paraphrase back to the person what they just said. Instead of you jumping in and answering or combating the conversation, you have to say, so tell me what you're saying is that you don't think that I'm helping enough around the house. Is that what you're saying? Yes. And then you kind of keep going like that. And what we find is that people really start to relax and open up when they feel like they've been heard. Mm-hmm. That's really all people want is to say, yes, okay, you finally heard what I was saying. You heard me. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And it seems like such a simple thing, but most people don't feel like their spouse is listening to them.
Mm-hmm. And in what we found out in those years when we were traveling around and doing those workshops is that we are not good listeners as a people.
Yeah.
We're not good listeners.
Yeah.
We don't get into this. We don't come into a room to listen.
Yeah.
We come into a room to share our thoughts, our ideas, and to combat whatever it is you just said or going to say, whatever we think you might say.
Yeah.
We are not listening. Yeah. And it transcends from age group to age group all the way up. Mm-hmm. We don't listen.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really good because when you communicate in that way, it kind of forces you to listen, to see what the other one is saying, to see whether or not they're even receiving the information the way that you're saying it, so that you can absolutely know what to work on. So that's a very good tool for individuals to have. I think that's good. And I'm starting to think about, there was a article that I read, well, not article, but a research journal that I read from the Gottman Institute, right? And they speak about perpetual problems within relationships versus, just problems that are solvable. And one of the things is that they said was that 69% of the problems that we're going to have within marriage is perpetual, meaning that these are problems that are not going to go away. And so how do people deal with problems when they arise with their spouses that they know that it's going to be something that they can't resolve? What would be the suggestion, or how would you help them to deal with that, and as well as recognize what are some of these issues that we might have that might not go away?
Well, I had to push back a little bit on that research or article you read, because I don't believe there's problems that can never be resolved.
Mm-hmm.
I believe a lot of them can be, most of them can be resolved. I guess there might be one or two that can't, but most of them can be. The challenge is a lot of us, we are so selfish that we are so focused on us that we're not willing to focus on we, the team,
Yeah.
right? So with Cheryl and I and stuff over the years, we've been able to work through so many little things that we don't really have anything right now that's a problem. So when a problem shows up, we just deal with that one problem and then we're done.
Mm-hmm.
What happens with other couples that over the years, the problems, like you mentioned, these problems keep building up. They don't go away. They just go into the corner, they go under the rug, they go in the closet until the next big thing happens. And then we go into the closet, go and pull it back out. And now we have more things. And the pile just keeps piling up. So what we teach in our workshops and our books and everything else is that start tackling easily solved problems, the small things. Start working on those, getting those resolved, getting them resolved. And pretty soon your pile starts to go down. And you can start working on some of the bigger problems and get those resolved. I can't think of anything that we can't resolve if we're focused on God. Yeah. God is the center. And we're focused on we as a team. And we do an exercise in our workshop to where we have this chair. We have this chair and we set it aside, and then we have a couple facing the chair. And we say that chair, your problem is sitting in that chair. Your problem is not your spouse. Your problem is not you. The problem is not the world or whatever. The problem is sitting in that chair. And now you guys are going to work together to solve that problem. And the pushback we get is, well, yeah, but he's doing this or she's doing that or whatever. Yeah, I get that. But you got to separate your spouse and you guys from the problem. So now you can work on it together, as opposed to you saying, well, he needs to stop drinking or he needs to stop smoking, or, you both need to work on the problem together to resolve it.
Because the problem is the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
The problem is not your spouse.
Right.
Yeah.
But we make our spouse the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so therefore it seems insurmountable because you can't change another person.
Yeah.
And another key word is willing. You have to be willing. Yeah. You can't be selfish. You have to be willing. If you're selfish and if you are not willing, then yes, you will have problems that are perpetual and will seem like they're unsolvable.
Yeah.
Now, there are times and situations where you might need to bring in a bias, or I should say a non-biased individual to help you. And that's where coaches come in.
Yeah.
And they help you to see some things that maybe you didn't see, or you didn't see it from that angle.
Yeah.
But you still have to be willing to do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you have decided that you are no longer willing, or that you want what you want and you want it the way that you want it, then yes, now you have a situation where there's no resolution.
Yeah.
Because you're not willing to work toward it. And even in situations where there are addictions and abuse, there's so many now than it was 50, 60, 70 years ago. Organizations and programs where you can go to get guidance, to get some assistance and support. But again, you have to be willing.
Yeah, that's some really good advice. One of the things that you mentioned was, bringing in a third party in moments when it's necessary. I want to speak to that a little bit because I've spoken to so many marriages where they're like, nah, our marriage is private. I don't want to bring anybody in. I don't want to talk to you about my problem and all of the things. How important is it for some of those situations where you do bring somebody in to talk about some of the issues that you have going on for resolve?
Well, I think it's critical. It's critical to bring someone in. However, the attitude of the person initiating the third party person, that's the biggest challenge, because we have couples that come to us to where the wife wants us to fix the husband and the husband wants us to fix the wife. So they're not coming to have
they're not coming as a team,
right? They're coming to have us fix their spouse. And that's why we created our MVP program, because we said, look, this is crazy, right? Even in a case of infidelity, it may be mostly on the person that committed the infidelity, but there's something else going on. There's a reason why the infidelity happened, right? So we have to get to the bottom of it, and we have to work on both parties willing, as Cheryl was saying, both parties have to be willing for us to come in and not pass judgment, but just say, okay, guys, this is what's going on. This is what we see. And a lot of times we point it out and they say, I never looked at it that way. But yeah, we see it and they say, okay, now you guys have to now do some collaboration. You got to be willing to work through this. We'll give you the tools. We have plenty of tools for you, but you got to be willing to use them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you can't come in with I would say a death mindset.
Yeah.
Where you come in and you've already decided that this is over.
Yeah.
Or I'm already done. Because we do have couples who come to us in the 11th hour, the last minute, and basically she's already turned off and he's already moved on.
Yeah.
So now you come to us and it's like, okay, I always feel like, well, what do you want me to do? It's your marriage. Do you want it? The question is, do you want this marriage? It's like when Jesus asked the man, he said, do you want to be healed?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, do you?
Yeah. And we have couples that we coach and stuff, and they are very functional in their dysfunction. So they have become so comfortable and so functional in their how they treat each other. There's no love for each other, but when they get around other people, when they come to church, they're loving, with the kids, they're loving with the other people in the church. When they go to work, they have no problems with their coworkers. And as soon as they come home, it flips. And now they're condescending. They're pointing the finger. They're yelling and screaming. So,
but they've also become so codependent on each other.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't want to leave, but they want to just stay in it and fuss and fight. Because now that's gotten, it's like let's say a functional alcoholic. They move in it and they don't realize, hey guys, there's a better flow. A higher flow, a more loving flow.
There's a love line that they have strayed off of. And when you stray off the love line, it's really easy to argue and fuss and fight with your spouse. But if you're on that love walk, if you're focused on God, the triangle, you're on that love line walk, it's really hard for me to argue and fuss with Cheryl and call her names if I love Cheryl, if I'm on the love walk. But it's really easy if I go off a bit and I say, you're always doing this and you never, you don't care nothing about me. You always with your girl.
Yeah. Because now you're going on a rant, right?
Yeah.
You really solving a problem. And one of the reasons why a lot of people do that is because they don't have those proper foundations in place,
Correct.
especially as it relates to like finances, right?
Correct.
I want to talk a little bit about that real quick, because when it comes to divorce proofing your marriage, finances is all the way
Yes.
up there at the
Right
top.
there.
And
Yep.
so what kind of things could couples do to ensure that their finances is in a good place so that can be divorce proof?
Well, let me take you back. Before
Okay.
we get to the married couples,
Mhm.
we need to work on being single,
Yeah.
because there are a lot of things that we bring into our marriages that we did not solve as singles.
Right.
Yeah.
We didn't sit down and have that conversation and say, well, how do you handle money?
Right.
How did your parents handle money? How did they teach you about money?
Right.
When you get depressed, what do? Do you go shopping? When you have a bad day,
Yeah.
what do you do? Or do you hold money?
Yeah.
Because you have one spouse that likes to spend, and the others want to save. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but we never have those conversations before we get married.
Yeah.
So then we get married, and then we find out that she's a spender and he's a saver, or they're both spenders and nobody's saving. Nobody really wants to do the bills and look at the finances and have a plan.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
communicate.
Yeah.
And communicate that plan. So I would say, even before you get married, you need to have that conversation and say, well, I mean, those were the things that Casper said. I was interrogating him. Those are the things
You're gathering your research and making sure.
Right. Those are the things we were having conversations about.
Mhm.
I was asking him, how do you spend money? What are your money habits? Where's your money situation at right now?
Yeah.
I asked him questions like that. And, what's your plan? I would create scenarios.
Yeah.
It's like an algebra
Yeah.
test.
Yeah, but that's so good, because so many people are afraid to have these conversations. Finances is another one that's on the line with intimacy.
Oh,
And
yes.
I don't understand why people are so afraid to have these conversations, but then I also do understand. So how should couples approach conversations that they are uncomfortable with?
Well, first of all, I'd say pick a topic
A light topic.
and get a pencil and paper, and you sit down and you write your thoughts on that topic. He writes his thoughts on that topic. And then you guys come together and you share. But I have to caution this works for two mature individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If either one is immature, then this conversation, I can totally understand why it could be difficult. This also works for individuals who are healed, individuals who had trauma prior to marriage, either a bad divorce, other infidelity, addictions, incest, or whatever it was that happened before you met your husband or your wife. As a single person, you need to get your healing.
Yeah.
You need to get your deliverance, because all these tools we give you, if you haven't gotten any of that in place, it carries over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It causes all kinds of problems.
Yes, it does. And it makes those conversations very difficult to just not happening at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so good. That's so good.